murder a liberator, but you can't murder liberation. You can murder a revolutionary, but you can't murder revolution. And you can murder a freedom fighter, but you can't murder freedom.
You're tapped in, so let's get right to it. So a few days ago, Marco Rubio, Secretary of State or Secretary of Department of State, was before Congress, okay? And that was a real shit show, to say the least, a real shit show. I mean, I've never seen a guy avoid asking a direct question directly, all right? Everything pertaining from the corruptness in the government, the Trump family, since his second term started, um, gaining so much wealth. I mean, in the billions of dollars. Trump's net worth, since he started his second term, has increased by $4.2 billion. Most of that that financial gain, it seems to have come from certain connections, and not just policies, but the way they go about initiating policies that affect the market, coupled with, again, certain people from the Middle East, UAE individuals, Saudi Arabia individuals, billionaires themselves, collaborating with Trump in terms of business deals that are worked through based upon certain policies and actions the United States is taking in that region. Okay, so you get the gist of that, hopefully. Anyway, so Marco Rubio was before Congress, and he was asked specific questions. One was, again, the wealth, the increase of wealth by not just Donald Trump, but also his children, Jared Kushner, Steve Witkoff, so many other people. I mean, individuals, some who were criminal or were convicted in the January 6th insurrection in the state capitol back in 2020. When was that? 21. Anyway, when that insurrection took place, when they bombarded and tore up the state capitol, or the country's capital. Anyway, these individuals are now making money hand over fist, being aware when to buy stocks and trade that stock at any given or specific time before announcement is made or right after announcement is made. Trump spending millions of dollars on stock. Individuals in the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, spending money right before announcements are made. I mean, man, just large sums of money are being had by the Trump administration, by Donald Trump and his administration, as well as his allies and friends. So I think the sentiment is Donald Trump desired to become president again for the sake of making money. And everybody who had faith in him or backed him are making money. Now, all this is taking place while the citizens of the United States are getting poor. Donald Trump said, I don't care, about, gas prices American citizens have to, endure. It's not my business, This is what he says. But so Marco Rubio was called before this foreign affairs committee, and the questioning in terms of what he was asked of, I thought was fairly mild questions. I thought, if I was up there, I would have asked him A, B, and C rather than, 1, 2, and 3. It made it seem as though Democrats as well as Republicans weren't trying to tear him a new a-hole. He got away. He got off scot clean. But anyway, the issue of AI came up. And this is a doozy, people. We need to understand what's really going on. This channel have done content on this very issue before. The effects of artificial intelligence upon the American citizen in between the next 2 to 3 years from now. The effects of it will be devastating. You know, a lot of people haven't wrapped their minds around that yet, don't really understand or can comprehend what that will do to society. And not just in terms of the environment, not just in terms of what it would extract from the environment, how it would affect the environment. That includes people as well as, you know, the ecosystem, right? Oh man, it's going to have grave effects upon the environment. And well, in this respect, to his credit, Marco Rubio admitted as much. And that's what I want to share with you guys. All right. So anyway, Secretary of State Marco Rubio warned that AI will make workers more efficient, but eliminate some roles entirely. So some of you who think your jobs are secure, you know, those white collar positions, beware. All right. He explained that if displaced workers are not successfully transitioned to new jobs or provided with new skills, widespread job losses could create societal pressures that eventually destabilize societies all over the world. So that's not just going to happen here in these United States. This is going to occur all over the world. And the truth of the matter is, when it comes to AI and not just facilitating it, but the transition into it or to it, there's not going to be that many jobs anyway. I don't care what skills you go get, because AI, and for instance, let's consider data centers do not require vast numbers of people to run it. When it comes to data centers, and this is part of this discussion as well, we know that as huge as data centers are, all it takes is maybe 50 to 100 people to run it. So let's say you have in California, in the next 2-3 years, data centers everywhere up and down the state of California. Let's say there may be 1,000 of them. Let's say 500. All right. So let's say 500 times 100. All right. That's just what, 5,000 jobs. But AI is going to take over. 50,000. I said 500, excuse me, 5,000. But, you know, AI is going to take over the workforce, period, point blank. And very few people, in terms of those who already have jobs, those who already understand AI, may not even have a job dealing with AI. You know, the jobs that people are used to having now, especially white collar jobs, are going to go out the door. Again, I did some content on this maybe 3 months ago, and I was expressing to my audience that jobs that we tend to think only humans can do will be those jobs, especially that would be taken over by AI. You know, I even threw in there doctors, surgeons, lawyers, judges, prosecutors, you know, stenographers, all that, teachers, professors in universities, all that is headed out the door. All right. Now, Marco Rubio did explain that to some extent. He explained that if displaced workers are not successfully transitioned to new jobs or provided with new skills, widespread job losses could create societal pressures. Now, Rubio's core explanations, if you ask me, and his arguments regarding all this stuff about the impact on AI jobs, they included the white collar, which I just talked about, those white collar jobs, or the white collar shift. Let's put it like that. Anyway, he emphasized that unlike past automation that mainly impacted blue collar physical labor, AI uniquely threatens white collar professions such as screenwriters and programmers that were previously insulated from technological advances. Okay. Also, one of the white collar shifts I think is also going to be that will take place would be the historical analogy. You know, in that, we'll put it like this. Rubio said that, or he compared that AI transition to the era, um, the AI transition to the era of industrialization. He noted that while it will ultimately make individual workers more efficient and more valuable, it will also eliminate specific jobs. Now, the societal repercussions of that, if you ask me, or anyone can argue that job displacement is no longer, or will be no longer just an economic issue. Think about that, right? Millions of workers will require completely new skill sets. All right. He did stress that the resulting political and social tensions pose a global destabilization threat. So if you ask me, you want to lay it out, in layman terms, there's going to be some rioting. There's going to be some rebellion behind this AI, as well as should be. As well as should be. See, because I think that those who are creating AI, who are so hell bent on bringing it and pushing it and forcing it down the throats of people all over the world, they could care less about the regular Joe. They're set. They're set, and in their minds, they're creating a better society, not taking into account that people have certain lifestyles they live, they're used to a certain way of living. All that matters to them will be at jeopardy or in jeopardy. And as a result, people will rebel against something that has taken from, that is taken from them, or a means for them to survive. Now, rather than these giant tech companies, these innovationists in terms of AI, are concerned with, when it comes to regulating AI, they have no qualms about that. They can care less. They don't think that there should be any regulations. They think that, most of them think that AI needs to just, go on the course it's on. Don't stop it. Don't regulate it. It'll take care of itself. It'll make everything all right. They're not thinking, okay, yeah, put certain restrictions in place so that certain jobs won't be, will no longer exist as a result of AI's advancement. They're not looking at it like that. They're looking at it like, hey, man, it's AI's time. Damn the human being, get used to it. That's the way it's looking, and that's kind of scary. You have to admit, in the next 2 years to 3 years, we're going to see the effects of this in real time. In real time. So yeah, when it comes to the regulatory dilemma, and I was just talking about that, it's about addressing the Senate Intelligence Committee. Well, this is where Mark Rubio came in when he was before them, or addressing the Senate Intelligence Committee during the prior hearing. Rubio had also highlighted the geopolitical pressure to compete. So it seems as though, hey, man, we're more concerned with competing economically with other powers around the world than we are concerned with the people, not just here in the United States, but all around the world. They're not seeing that big picture. They're only seeing the picture to compete economically in terms of trade and things of that nature. So this then has to be the mindset, or the mindset and thinking of those who have business corporations, those who pretty much, make the rules and decide, whether or not people have jobs or not. This is what I think their thought processes are. They're not worried about nothing else. They just want to compete with others who are in the same market as they are. They're not worried about, the effects on the human population as a result of this technology, not just coming into being, but just taking over. It's going to take over. All right. But he questioned whether the U.S. could effectively regulate AI, and they can. Amadei. I was just listening to a guy, Amadei, who is the creator of Claude, and he also has I think it's um, Anthropic. Yeah, I think that's his company. He was already saying, warning a long time ago, hey, you guys, we got to regulate this because we can actually regulate this. We ought not let this just go nilly-willy. Let's regulate this. He had a contract with the US government, uh, except in Trump, particularly about his AI system. They didn't want any regulations or restrictions on that application that he was going to provide them. And he told them, no, in good conscience, I can't do that. We can regulate this thing. Trump and Hegseth said, we don't want it regulated. So the fact that it can be regulated and yet is, not being considered seriously to be regulated, it should be a red flag to a lot of us. It really should affect a lot of us in terms of understanding that without regulation, AI regulation, the technology, then we're going to be in big trouble. And that's just not Amadei saying this. Elon Musk has said it also. There are others who say it also. In fact, I have a clip. I have two. You know how we do here to help in terms of context. But let me read this off right quick. He questioned whether the U.S. could effectively regulate AI and place moral limits on its development when facing adversaries who might deploy it without such restrictions. And so now they're saying, well, if they're not going to do it, we're not going to do it because, hey, damn some morals and stuff. When it comes to warfare and people are going to use AI for warfare, we're going to use AI for warfare as well. We don't want any restrictions either. Again, though, the problem, and Amadei said this, without regulating AI, putting certain restrictions upon it or encoding in it certain morals, certain wokeness, AI is going to turn on the human race. All right. But there that is. Let me involve this clip right now. Like I said, to give us more context. Before I do, please like, share, follow, comment, and subscribe to TAP. You are tapped in. That is the art of political discourse. We appreciate your participation and viewership as always as well. We'd like to ask you again to please help us get these subs up. Like and share this channel with others, bring them in, let them see what we're talking about here, and give them an opportunity to decide whether or not we're giving them a little more something down to earth, than all that other, hocus pocus and propaganda stuff we see on social media nowadays. All right, that being said, let's drop this clip. Very significant. And this clip is courtesy of C-SPAN, of all people. All right, of all networks. So pay attention to this.
Good to see you. Communist China is trying to win the AI race, and they will use it, for example, to dominate our military if they're able to do that, and so many other ways. A world where Communist China is dominant in AI is very bad for the United States and for the entire world. That's why it's critical that us and our allies cannot lose this race. Semiconductor supply chains, particularly semiconductor manufacturing equipment, SMEs, are critical.
Right, quick draw. See, I think that's the problem with these developers, these AI developers and politicians, or those who run the world. They're more concerned about warfare and increasing one's bank account rather than improving the world. How can we make the world a better place? And do so without giving AI too much leverage or leeway or, encoding in it its autonomy, that's some sad stuff, that the people of the world are not considered first and foremost, rather than are over war, competing with other countries, or how big, one's bank account is. That's sad.
To winning this competition. It's one area that Beijing is spending billions and billions of dollars to be able to produce chips in China, and they've failed to be able to produce those high-end chips so far. President Trump understands this better than anyone because the Trump administration was the first to utilize export controls on SMEs to slow down Communist China's advanced chip making industry. Since that time, key allies and partners have also imposed controls on SMEs to China. However, their controls have not been as restrictive as U.S. controls, and this has allowed certain foreign countries to backfill the Chinese market with critical dual-use tools. Secretary Rubio, do you agree that export controls on SMEs are critical to maintaining our technological advantage over Communist China?
It is. It's actually where it's most critical is in the high end, the areas, that are not legacy, that are broader and that allow for that. I think on the broader point of AI, we share your view. One of the initiatives that I think Jacob Helber's done a great job with at the State Department is Pax Silica, in which we signed up all these countries around the world. I think we're up to 13 or 14, and including ourselves and others who hope to join as well, in which we can create this global consortium.
Now, and he did say in which they can create this global consortium. That global consortium has already been created. When I mentioned earlier about Trump and certain Arab officials or super rich billionaire Arabs in the Middle East coming together. For instance, Jared Kushner, he has what they call infinity partners, right? He has this corporation, and man, he's raised over $6 billion for this. And the crazy part about it, his investors, and this investment had to do with AI and chips and all that stuff. Crypto, all that, right? Those investors are Saudi royalty as well as UAE royalty who invest in this. Now, on the other hand, you have Steve Witkoff, who's a special envoy to the Middle East. He also has a company called World Liberty, something like that, World Liberty. It's World Liberty Financial. Trump is an investor. His children are investors, and the UAE royalty in the UAE are investors. The consortium already exists, and it's all built around or based upon this consortium, and this money they're talking about making or investing concerns AI. It concerns AI, every bit of it. And that's where, most of these guys, especially politicians, as well as the super rich and those innovators or those technological creators of AI are interested in. That's it.
All of the elements of the AI supply needs. It's not just the innovation, it's obviously access to the minerals and the critical elements necessary in order to produce these chips and all the things that it will take.
And so this is why you also see wars or destabilized situations in countries like Africa. You see this taking place, in the Congo and Sudan. You see this taking place in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. These countries, they house the rare earth minerals, resources that AI or these tech companies and the investors in them need. Now, under, their own rule, these countries being sovereign and whatnot, those who want to go in and plunder for the resources in those countries aren't able to do that. So how do they get in? They destabilize countries, governments. And in doing so, United Nations or some, Western power, the United States says, hey, we got to go in here and we got to get this under control. Those guys are savages. They don't know how to do anything. So we got to go in there and quash all this. That's a front. That's a front. France did it in the Sahel for decades. Say, oh, well, hey, you got terrorists over there. We got to go over there and help you guys. Mining firms came right along with the French military, and they started to mine and, you dig up the uranium, ship it back to France, give the host country for these military assets and facilities, no compensation whatsoever. But they were pillaging the resources. This is what these Western countries do. They have to keep them destabilized because the United States or the West do not have rare earth minerals, especially those that they need to make these chips, or to these minerals or those minerals that will propel and help build AI or the AI revolution. They don't have it, so they have to go over there and destabilize those areas so that they can gain access to the areas. And by way of gaining access, boom, they begin to not negotiate but press about bringing in business, mining companies, those kind of corporations that's going to go and dig and get the minerals or rare earth minerals they need for, for all this stuff they're going to need to, make AI function and function well. So
take to lead the world in AI. I think it is safe to say the United States right now is a global leader on AI. I think it is also wise to say that that lead is not irreversible. It has to be sustained, and there will be a real challenge in sustaining it. And we're going to have to stay focused on it. The good news is I do think
that part in terms of sustaining it is getting leverage in those countries who have beneath their dirt, their soil, those minerals, there's those rare earth minerals and resources to sustain the AI systems they hope to prop up and keep running for far, 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 far into the future. Without it, they, so wars are going to come about. We're going to see wars in those countries, especially Africa, where they have these resources in abundance. Ukraine also full of rare earth minerals, full of them. But because they won't sign a deal with President Trump in terms of getting more than half the resources over there, United States said, we're not going to help you then. You're going to fight Russia by yourself. Now, that's a European country being treated like that. Imagine what they're going to do when it's time to go into Africa and get those resources that they're going to need in the next year or two. A lot to think about, people.
We have a system of global alliances that view it the way we do. And we want to lead on it because it's not just about leading the technology in AI. It's about also leading in the standards that will govern how AI is used. I don't want to monopolize this conversation on this point, but it's one that I think the Senate should think about, because I know we're starting to think about it. AI will have very positive impacts on our economy and societies. It will also have some detriments. It's going
to have more detriments than it will have positive impacts, especially for the people. That part he left out. More negative impacts on the people than a positive impact on the people.
There will be white collar jobs in this country that will be impacted. And I think we have to start thinking not simply about the impact that AI will have on those jobs, but the societal pressures that will create, not just in the United States, but in economies all over the world. Much like industrialization and automation did, it will make the worker more efficient and more valuable, but it will eliminate some jobs, and those jobs will have to be replaced with new jobs or new skills. That's not just an economic issue. That is a political issue. That, over time, could destabilize societies all over the world. So we have to start thinking about AI in those terms as well.
And what he just expressed is that the government is preparing for a revolt. Let's cut to the chase here. They're saying, governments are saying, not just the United States, but all those governments who are in line with how they think in terms of AI are preparing for uprisings, civil wars maybe, but rebellion in terms of this AI system taking over. So they're getting ready for that. Are you ready?
You mentioned our allies. Shouldn't they have to follow the same sort of standards U.S. companies do when we're limiting the semi-manufacturing equipment that's going to communist China?
And that's our hope, is that we can create people that we can create a coalition of nations that understand the danger in this. And they're running through the same, some are better than others, but they're running through the same problems that we run into. And that is, companies ultimately want to sell to the markets, and China's a large market. But I agree. And that's one of the goals behind Pax Silica, is to create unanimity or consensus behind that thinking.
Well, so, Mr. Secretary, that's why I recently introduced the Match Act with Senators Kim, Risch, and Schumer to level the playing field This bill would provide the State Department with the leverage in ongoing negotiations with our allies to align those controls. And if agreement cannot be reached, it would ensure that foreign companies cannot sell the very choke point technologies that we have restricted. So I hope.
And so then you're talking about restricting free trade. That's what you're talking about. Okay, yeah, and that's that. I just wanted to share with you all that aspect of this conversation that Marco Rubio had with some members of Congress. Listen, this thing is real. This thing is real. AI is going to affect us in ways a lot of us haven't wrapped our minds around just yet, and will be affected or impacted in such a negative manner or way that it's going to really, it's going to upset society. It may turn society over on its head. And Marco Rubio just alluded to that. Most, I think, Western governments acknowledge this, you know, but I think the problem will exist because those who are in the creation of AI and those who are in the business of pushing it have left out the human factor, have not considered how it would impact human beings who are going to be totally against this. And for the most part, you get the feeling that their attitude is, so what? They'll figure it out or they'll die. And with all these data centers popping up all over the world, well, let's just talk about the United States. You guys, there's a map. You can go online and ask how many data centers are in the country, in individual states, and you'll be astonished to realize that these data centers are there already. They're already there, you know. These data centers will consume so much water, and not only that, they will affect the ecosystem as well as the environment, not just in terms of the animals in the environment, but people as well, just to run them. The function of these data centers will disrupt human life as we know it, put it like that. There that is. I wanted to share that with you guys about Marco Rubio and his admitting that AI is going to impact the human race more negatively than it will positively. All right. That's what's going to happen. Tell us what you think. Put your thoughts in the comments. Let us know where you stand on this issue. Is AI going to be a good thing? Is AI worth the dismantling of society as we know it? Or is AI something that we need to put a stop to, or at the very least restrict in such a way to where it does not affect human beings and the way they live or their lifestyles? Put your thoughts in the comments. We'll appreciate them. We'll read each and every one of them. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.
You can murder a liberator, but you can't murder liberation. You can murder a revolutionary, but you can't murder revolution. And you can murder a freedom fighter, but you can't murder freedom.